This story takes place in the early 90s. I was 6 years old at the time, living with my parents and my brothers in a duplex. The events of this night are still burned into my memory, even all these years later. To get a feel for where we lived, we were in an end unit of the duplex and had a sliding glass door in our living room that opened to our patio that faced the woods. Our living room couch was against the wall, half in front of the sliding glass door, but angled in a way to see the TV that was against the wall next to the glass door. One of those big old tube TVs, the ones with the wood paneling. So it's Friday night. My father had yet to come home from drinking. So me and my mom camped out on the couch, watching a horror movie marathon. Not to just drop this in here, but I should add that my father would get pretty drunk and was super abusive, so my mom slept with a knife near to wherever she was, especially on those occasions where he would be out late. It was a rough time for us, but we got through it the best we could. My mom's knife of choice was just a kitchen knife. Nothing special, but in a pinch, it would do the trick. Anyway, back to the events of the evening. We were watching Halloween, eating snacks, laughing, and having an enjoyable time. We ultimately fell asleep around 10 p.m. on the couch, my mom cuddling me, as mothers are known to do with their kids. The next thing I know, I wake to my mom screaming. This wasn't an unusual thing in my house, as again, my dad was an abusive drunk. But when I opened my eyes, the first thing I see is a tall, thin man in a black hoodie standing over us. This was not my dad. My eyes met his, and I was frozen. But thankfully, my mom's a fast-thinking woman. She grabbed the knife from the coffee table, lunged at him before he could do anything towards us. The man stumbled backwards, and as he regained his footing, he ran out the open sliding glass door. My mom jumped up in a swoop, slammed the door shut, and locked it. She then called the police. Once the police got there, they figured that he had used a knife of his own to pop the lock on our patio door. The reason they thought this is because, plain as day, laying in our sitting area, there was a separated blade and handle. So when he had popped the door, he had actually popped his knife. They also found a bunch of cigarette butts that weren't my parents'. The police also said that whoever that was, he was probably sitting out there watching us all night before getting up the courage to make his way in. The cops said they had several calls of a peeping Tom around our complex over the past couple of months. For whatever reason, that guy chose our house to be the first one that he prowled in. Shortly after this incident, my parents ended up getting a divorce, so we moved in with my grandma. Thankfully, no more encounters with tall, skinny hooded man. But still to this day, I check all locks before I go to bed. Twice even. We also have a specially made pole wedged between our glass patio door and the door frame. Looking out a window at night still makes me uneasy. Uneasy that someone might be on the other side, just watching. That very thought makes me shiver every time I have it. Back in December of 2015, I was making a north-south cross-country drive through the Midwestern United States. I was a university student at the time, a woman in my young 20s, driving home for the semester break. I was driving south through Kentucky on I-65 at around 11:30 p.m., still about an hour away from the city where I was going to sleep for the night. There were no other cars on the road at all, and I hadn't seen any for a while. That part of I-65 was a 6-lane divided highway, 3 lanes for each direction, in the area south of Mammoth Cave National Park, just northeast of Bowling Green, Kentucky. I was changing the music on my phone when I noticed an 18-wheeler coming up behind me in the rearview mirror. I stopped what I was doing, clicked off the phone, and waited for the truck to pass. The truck got right even with my car, and instead of completing the pass, matched my speed and stayed right beside me. Then, to my surprise, the driver turned on a spotlight on the side of the truck, which shone directly down into the cabin of my car and right upon my face. I was truly confused, as I had never seen a truck do anything like this before. The driver kept the light on my car for what seemed like a very long minute. The entire time that light was on me, my stomach felt like it was in the back of my throat. I kept my gaze straight ahead. I did my best to slow my speed so that the truck would finish passing me. The driver eventually turned off the light and completed the pass, moving from the middle lane to the right lane in front of my car. I was still creeped by this, so I slowed down some more and changed to the leftmost lane to put some space between me and this big rig. As soon as I moved to the fast lane, the truck matched my speed once more and moved back over to the middle lane to come parallel to my car. The driver once again turned the light on, shining it directly into the passenger side of my car cabin. I had now confirmed that this truck driver was definitely following me, and what's more, being super creepy while he did it. I still kept my gaze straight ahead because I felt like looking over would somehow make it worse. The truck turned off the spotlight and pulled in front of my car in the fast lane. I decided to move away again, changing lanes behind the truck back over to the rightmost lane and then speeding up to pass. I was back up around the speed limit again, maybe 70-75 miles per hour. By the time I completed my merge, I saw the truck beginning to shift lanes towards me once more and speeding back up to match me. Before they could pull up next to me again, I decided it was time to get the hell out of there, and I floored it. I sped up to about 90, the fastest I'd ever driven in my life, and I put maybe a mile of distance between me and the truck before slowing myself down some. I looked up to the rearview mirror, and I will never forget the image. This big, orange tractor trailer, illuminated by the street lamps of a highway interchange, absolutely devouring the distance that I had put between us. The truck was charging up behind me at an unbelievable speed for a vehicle that big. I sped up again, but it didn't matter. The truck had caught up to me, pulled beside me once more, and turned on that damn spotlight. I stared straight ahead, keeping my speed, not daring to look over. It was at this time that I decided my only advantage was the maneuverability of my small car. I hit my brakes and dropped back behind the 18-wheeler, moving into the middle lane behind their truck. They moved over into the right lane, and I moved over behind them again. I decided to stay right behind the truck in its blind spot so that they wouldn't be able to see me. I saw a sign for an exit and decided that this would be my escape route. I continued to wait behind the truck until the last possible moment, and once the body of the truck was beyond the point where the exit split away, I darted out from behind it and took that exit. Thoroughly shaken at that point, I wondered how far away from the interstate I should go, and if the truck would just come looking for me. I ended up pulling into a Wendy's right by the freeway. I parked and got out. I inspected my vehicle, looking to see if there was any damage, thinking maybe the driver was trying to warn me of something wrong with my car. There was nothing wrong with it. I waited at the Wendy's for a little while to make sure that the truck was long gone before getting back on the interstate and continuing to my hotel. After the break, when I drove back to school, I did not use I-65. Late night drives on wide open freeways still give me the willies. And while I wouldn't say that I have a fear of semi-trucks, I definitely notice them on the road more now than ever before this. I'm 41 years old and female, but when I was around 20, I attended college in Northeast Pennsylvania. I lived off campus and had a part-time job at the local mall. The mall just happened to be about a mile away, and I would walk to and from work regularly. The mall generally closed at 9 p.m., and I would finish my closing tasks and start walking home around 9:30, maybe 10 at the latest. Occasionally, I could get a ride home with a coworker, but most of them were high schoolers getting picked up by their parents. One night, I was walking my familiar route home. There were never really many people out and about downtown until I got back onto campus, which I would cut across to get home. This night, I was only a few blocks from the mall when I noticed a van parked on the next corner. I noticed it, but I didn't think anything of it initially. There were always a smattering of cars parked around. I mean, it's a public street anyway. The van appeared to be running, and the headlights were on. As I got a bit closer, I noticed that the sliding door on the side was wide open. I definitely noticed, but assumed that someone must be loading something in or out of one of the local businesses along this street. As I began to walk past the van, there was a sudden flurry of movement to my left. Apparently, there had been a man crouched behind a dumpster there, and he was running straight at the open van door. The scariest part of this was that I was directly between him and that open van door. He was trying to shove me into the van. I screamed, and I can only credit my complete awkward lack of coordination for what happened next. I tripped and stumbled when he surprised me, so when he hit me, I was already sort of falling to the ground. The force that he hit me with only got my head and shoulders into the open door, while the majority of my body landed outside on the ground. I remember that he grabbed me around the waist and was trying to hoist me up and through the door, but because he smacked me pretty well, I was just a bit out of it and was absolutely dead weight. He jumped over me into the van, grabbed a handful of my hair, and began to pull me off the ground by it, trying to load me into the back of this vehicle. This is when headlights from a car turning down the street washed over me, and I could briefly see that my attacker was a white guy in a black hoodie. When I saw this car approaching, I screamed louder and started wildly flailing my arms. I heard their brakes screech, and this guy, whoever he was, let go of my hair. I scrambled away from him, and the hooded bastard slammed the door shut and seconds later accelerated away. As they pulled off, a cute little white-haired Polish woman exited the car that had turned down the street at the exact right moment to save me. She hugged me and told me that I was safe. It was only then that I realized I was still screaming. This woman sat on the sidewalk with me and then walked me to her car. Cell phones were relatively new and neither of us had one. She drove me to the police station and stayed with me while I answered questions and made a report. As far as I know, they never caught the guy. My housemate with a car let me borrow it any time that I was going to go to work after that. And that was the last time that I ever walked around downtown after sunset. I had nightmares for a while. I couldn't help but think of what could have happened to me had that older woman not come by when she did, or if I had fallen directly into the back of that van and not halfway into the gutter.